Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay, awesome. My name is Ulia Zaman. I'm a PhD student at the University of California, Santa Cruz, and I'm excited to share our research with you on how we can use large language models to collect and interpret classroom feedback. So, this work was conducted at UC Santa Cruz by our team at the GUI Lab, which is the Games User Interaction and Intelligence Lab. And our goal for this project was to make it more engaging and meaningful for students to be able to share feedback with their TAs and professors, and for the instructors to be able to collect more actionable, deeper insights. So, first, let's talk about the current state of classroom feedback. Traditionally, classroom feedback is collected at the end of the quarter, like once a quarter, through surveys. And there's a lot of issues that come out with these traditional methods. So, for one, it's a lot of delayed insights. They only happen once a quarter. So, by the time the instructor receives all of the feedback, it's usually too late for them to actually make any changes in that classroom. They could make changes for the next class, but for those students, they are not able to benefit from any improvements to the course. For two, there's also a lack of depth. A lot of these surveys consist of multiple choice questions and some free response questions that are usually optional. So a lot of students don't actually take the time to fill them out and share their honest opinions. And three, they suffer from poor relevance. So basically, a lot of the data collected through these surveys is very quantitative, and also many schools use the same set of questions for all of the classes in that department or in that school, and so they're not very tailored towards specific courses or specific teaching styles for the instructor to be able to kind of tailor them and collect the data that they want to collect. So how can we do this better? This leads us to our central research question, which is how can we improve the experience of giving feedback for students while providing deeper, more actionable insight for faculty? So, to answer this question, we explored the potential of LLM powered conversational agents that are able to engage students in real conversational dialogue and allow them to reflect on their learning experiences so that the instructors can gain richer and more personalized feedback at scale. So, our solution is a three-part system built around LLMs. So, the first component is the prompt designer, which is a web based tool for instructors to create and test custom feedback prompts. And then the second component is the feedback collector, which is the web interface that the students actually interact with, and they have conversations with the chatbot so that it can collect information. And then finally, we have the feedback analyzer, which is a dashboard for the instructors where they can visualize and see the summaries of the data collected. So, taking a closer look at these, starting with the prompt designer. So like I said, this is a web-based tool that allows the instructors to design and test their custom prompts. They're able to do things like uploading their syllabus, specifying which focus areas they want to focus on to collect feedback, and choosing how often they want students to be sharing their feedback. So it gives them a flexible way to kind of tailor the feedback process that works best for their timeline. And once the prompts are set, students interact with the feedback collector, which is a chatbot interface powered by GPT-4. And students can access this anytime through a secure platform. And unlike the traditional surveys, this chatbot engages the students in a conversational dialogue. So it's able to ask follow-up questions, it's able to encourage reflection and elaboration, and it makes the process of giving feedback feel more natural and feel more engaging for the students. So finally, after the students share all of their feedback, the instructors receive all of the feedback through the feedback analyzer dashboard, which basically summarizes the feedback, identifies key themes, and even displays anonymized student conversations. So it gives the instructors clear, organized view of what students are saying without having to read through 100 different free response questions. And they're able to see which themes are being highlighted in the course by the students, and go from there and adjust their teaching accordingly. So we piloted this system in 2 graduate level courses at UC Santa Cruz, Game Data Science and Ethics in HCI. Both of them were taught by the same instructor, and we had a total of 40 students who participated. So this instructor chose to use the system twice, once at the mid-quarter mark and once at the end of the quarter. But again, this is flexible based on the instructor. They can choose how often they want to use the system. For both of the sessions, we did have a researcher facilitate co-design sessions with the instructor to ensure that they knew how to use the system and help them kind of design the prompts since it was their first time using it. And then at the end of the quarter, we conducted semi-structured interviews with 6 students to understand their experience as well as the instructor. So let's start with the instructor's perspective. They found the system to be quite efficient, stating that it only takes 5 minutes, and then they had already 23 responses, which is way more than they usually get with the traditional surveys. They also highlighted the flexibility of the system, saying that they were able to create prompts that were specific to whichever assignments they were working on at the time. So in the mid-quarter mark, whatever assignments they were working on, they focused on those, and then at the end of the quarter, they focused more on the final project. And then another key thing was that they highlighted that they were seeing more engagement from the students because the students were taking the time to actually have a conversation with the chatbot and share their meaningful insights. So this allowed the instructor to see some insights that they would not have seen through the set surveys, such as, seeing that some of the instructions were not very clear when the instructor thought they were clear to the students, but these students highlighted that it was not actually clear. So now let's hear from the students' perspective. Students mentioned that the system was very reflective and meaningful, and the experience felt very conversational, and it was a new experience for them, and it felt better to share feedback in this method rather than using multiple choice questions. They also appreciated how the chatbot encouraged elaboration, stating that once the conversation kind of started, it was pretty smooth and it flowed naturally, and it would ask a lot of follow-up questions to have them dive deeper into their thoughts and ideas and concerns, which felt very genuine for them. And finally, they also highlighted that it felt very conversational to speak with a chatbot. So it wasn't just asking the same questions over and over. It was asking new follow-up questions and asking new questions based on what the student was saying, which felt really genuine. So of course, no system is perfect. We did see a few concerns come up and a few ideas for how we can improve our system moving forward. So the first thing was that students really brought up the idea about the character and tone of the chatbot. So they said that they would prefer to be more informal so that they could reply to it more freely, more candidly, as opposed to if it felt like they were talking to a TA or a professor, then they wouldn't feel as comfortable sharing their honest feedback. And then another concern that came up was data security and anonymity. A lot of students mentioned that if they knew for certain that the instructor would not be reading their conversation specifically or would not have like their identity attached to the conversation, they would feel more comfortable sharing honest feedback, and they would probably frame their feedback a little differently as opposed to if there was the risk that the instructor would know who said what. So moving forward, we plan to expand the use of this system by targeting a larger and more diverse group of faculty, also testing it across different disciplines and classroom settings. Our goals are to identify effective feedback collection strategies, also improve the system's adaptability, as well as address key design challenges such as personalization, anonymity, and interface clarity. So our future iterations will focus on these things. And also, while we realize that for this study, it included a small number of participants, we do believe it expands an exciting conversation about the future of classroom feedback. That is all I have for today. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. I thought that was really fascinating. So I'm a teacher. In our school, we do feedback for teachers in grades 7 through 12. So I'm curious what your thoughts are if this could potentially be, because I know this was for college level students, so in terms of like their responses might be a little bit more mature in that sense, but would you then tailor the responses that could come from the chat, like to, let's say, be like, I don't know, check for things that are, I don't know, like censor them so that students aren't, writing things that might, hurt a teacher's feelings or something like that. I'm just curious what your thoughts are about that.
Yeah, I think based on what we saw with the graduate students that participated in the study, they were aware of that, so they made sure that they weren't saying anything that would hurt the instructor's feelings. I do think it is a valid concern, though. Also, I do think with graduate students, they're used to doing these feedback surveys because I know, like at our school, we always have the set surveys. We know kind of what to expect. I'm not sure about younger grades if they typically do things like that, but I guess that's the flexibility with the system is that the instructor can, in the prompt, highlight what is the age level or the grade level that the chatbot will be speaking to, and so any safeguards or things that we need to add, we could tailor the prompts to that. So far, we haven't seen anything like that come up, but I suppose it's a risk we'd have to consider in the future.
Okay. Anyone else with questions? I do have one, if nobody else does. Actually, kind of on that last point you made about the safety aspect or guardrails, is there any worry about hallucinations in the current system, or is that just something that's not necessary because you think that the students won't interact with it in that way?
So with our conversation with the instructor, we didn't get any concerns like that come up. They liked the feedback that was collected. That was a concern that came up from the students' side, actually, which was interesting, is that they were aware of ChatGPT hallucinating and things like that. So that was a concern that they had, that they wanted to make sure the feedback they were sharing was being communicated correctly to the instructor, and there was no like mix match in the middle. And that is something we hope to address in the future. Like again, I don't think we saw that this time, but this was a very small participant pool, so perhaps something we'd focus on.
All right. Thank you. Any other? Oh, okay. One more.
I could shout it from here. So we're looking at models that are going to be taking like rough averages and trends. How does your model deal with data outliers? How do they communicate it, and is there a worry that they're going to get lost in the shuffle?
That's a good question. We did see with I wish I had like an example of the feedback summaries to show like a more specific one, because I don't think you can really read this one from here. Um, but it does, if you like scroll down a bit more, it did pick out some. I guess I don't think they were outliers though. I think they were just more like specific examples to, like, it pulled out some quotes from the students to like show the instructor why it identified these themes. Also, the instructor is able to go in and see and read the specific conversations if they had that concern. I think I would have to like think about that a little more just in case there was an outlier that it did overlook, and how can we kind of prevent that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.